And now, an Envision Financial podcast with Luke Smith on Canberra's 2CC.
And that would be you, Luke Smith from Envision Financial Services.
It would be.
It would indeed. Thanks very much for dropping by today.
Mate, good to see you.
Before we get on to today's topic, yet again we have had correspondence from a listener who has a simple question which is currently right in front of you.
It is. Okay, so question says, can I withdraw from a TTR and place money in a bank account and then gift it to my children? The answer is yes. You can do whatever you want, provided you play within the rules of a transition to retirement pension. They are taking between 4 and 10% of the balance each financial year. So we've got $1 million in super. We pull out 10%. There's $100,000. You can do whatever you want with that. You can have the greatest Christmas party ever, or you can give it to your kids. That's a very separate issue in relation to, do I have to have them as dependents or beneficiaries? That is a matter when you die.
Yes.
Not a matter when you
I get
take
the impression.
it out.
I get the impression though that he might be trying to avoid that tax implication.
And that's
when somebody is nominated as the beneficiary, where those non-dependent children are then subject to tax.
Yep. So that then depends on the taxable component of the fund.
Yeah.
And if you were pulling money out as a transition to retirement, putting it into another fund and starting another income stream, a recontribution strategy would be a way to get around that. So that's sort of multifaceted, but yes, you can take it out. Yes, you can gift it to them. You can do whatever you want with it. You've just got to meet the rules to get it out.
Okay, but getting it out may not be the most appropriate strategy. So you probably want to get further advice,
and not the only option.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's one of a few options that you can do.
Fantastic.
And, I like that, right? So I had a meeting with two ladies this week who will remain nameless. But it illustrates to me and for your benefit that we have these conversations and we have these shows on strategies, and it was lovely to see these two ladies come in this week, sit down and go, we've been doing that, we're looking at that, we have this, we've done that, I know about this, tell me what we can do here. And it sort of makes turning up on a Friday really worthwhile.
Oh, I thought you just enjoyed hanging out with me.
Oh, I like hanging out with you. It's always good sitting in here freezing. But yeah, so let's change their names and call them, I don't know, Ness and Tina. It was really refreshing to see them come in full of beans, with some ideas, with some strategies, with a plan, and understanding their why, and then we build out on that to make it even better. It was just really refreshing to see somebody come in and be really prepared, but benefit from what we say every week and take little bits that are applicable to them and build it out, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's the other interesting thing, isn't it? If people are prepared before they're meeting with a financial planner, it not only helps you do your job, it actually helps them hugely benefit more because they have a more clear idea about what they want to achieve.
100%. And I think there's nothing more frustrating for me when people walk in and go, so, can I retire? And I go, well, what do you need, Leon? Oh,
I need everything I haven't got.
Want to get the most? What does everyone else do? What does everyone else live on? What did people say this morning? Who cares? It was great and really refreshing to come in and go, we're this age, we're going to quit on this time with this money. I'm thinking about A, B, and C. And all we did was extrapolate out the thinking and go, well, what about this and what about that? That'd make this better. And they left with even more clarity. But the peace of mind to know that, could I chuck it in now? Could I throw work in June? Have I got to go to Christmas? The greater the clarity you bring, the more definitive the answers are going to be.
Absolutely. So it's important to know the right questions in order to get the right answers.
Just be prepared.
Yeah.
You make a shopping list before you go to Woolworths.
Well, some people don't.
Well,
this is a perfect illustration, isn't it?
This is true.
Some of us make a shopping list before going to the supermarket. Some of us just wing it.
Exactly.
And that can lead to other problems, can't it?
You find out you've got 9 boxes of cheese that you thought you didn't have.
Exactly right. And you're also more likely to buy things on a whim because, oh, look, that's on special.
Exactly.
Exactly right. I don't really need it, but I'm just going to get it because it's a bargain.
Spot on.
Today's topic is the Centrelink asset test.
Yes.
And, of course, Centrelink has 2 tests.
Correct.
It has the income test and the asset test.
Exactly right.
So what's the difference, and what's the important thing that we need to know about the asset test?
So I thought we'd just have a refresher on Centrelink, because a lot of questions lead into Christmas. Maybe everybody's trying to get the age pension in January. I don't know. But we've got to remember that there are two tests: asset test, income test. Asset test includes anything that's a financial asset, which could be money in the bank. It could be an investment property, shares in a company. Could be term deposits, the capital value of your superannuation. Okay, now we all know that the family home is exempt. The net value of an investment property, so value less debt, is recorded. And there are thresholds that keep going up. So at the moment, I've got the numbers here because they've indexed quite significantly over the last couple of years. So as a couple, if you've got less than $1,074,000, you'd be entitled to something. If you have less than $481,500, you're entitled to a full age pension. And this is where I find, from an asset test perspective, people get a little bit muddled up, because they go, well, I've got $1 million in my super, including the contents of my house, the fire sale value of my cars, and I'll never get it. What I want people to take from today is, this is a living, breathing assessment. So if you're over at the moment and you're living on a certain amount of money and the value of your assets is falling, you might not be available, like the age pension might not be available to you immediately today. But 2 years from now, if you've got $900,000 of assessable assets, then you have the ability to apply for Centrelink and get a part pension.
And the important thing that comes with a part pension is the concession card.
Oh, and you get all the benefits of regos and this and that and rates, and there's probably $5,000 to $8,000 of value there from all the concessions that you get. But I find a lot of people are coming in and going, oh, I can't get it today. I'll never get it. It's actually not the case. So you've got to be mindful that the asset test is one side of it. The income test is the other side. So the income test is applied. And what they do there is they say, if you have less than about $9,000, we'll give you full pension. If you've got more than about $99,000 between you as a couple, then you're not going to get any pension. And anywhere in between, you'll get a prorated amount. So if you were halfway up the scale, you'll get half of what a full age pension would be. Now, we need to keep in mind that they do an asset test and they do an income test. And the test that gives you the least is the one that they use. So here's an example of where there's a bit of confusion. You might have your primary home exempt, some money in the bank, a little bit of super. Let's say you've got $300,000 of super in between the two of you, and one of you has a defined benefit pension because you worked in the government for 37 years, and you left and you've got a $100,000 pension with PSS. They go, oh, look, I'm under 481,000. I can get full age pension because I'm under the asset test, forgetting that the income assessment of their pension will be the one that Centrelink uses. So depending on how far you are up the income test, we need to keep things in mind. So if you were going to try and maximise lowering your assets, if you're going to give something away, give it away 5 years before you get there. Okay, because under the gifting rules, Centrelink says if you've given anything away in the last 5 years, if it's more than $10,000, then they're going to assess you as having it under the asset test. Because you're not going to be the first person that goes, well, when I get there, I'll just give $500,000 to my children, right? This isn't their first rodeo. Okay, so if you're going to do that 5 years before you get there. Okay, because then you don't have to declare it under the asset test because you haven't given it away in the previous 5 years.
What about a situation where you're not giving your children a big lump sum, but you're giving them a little bit every month to help them out, but it adds up to a big amount over a period of time? Then
you'd have to be assessed in relation to what you've done with that money, because if you're giving away your income from the assets that you have, you're spending your money, that's your living costs. That's different to saying I've got $500,000 in a family trust, I've got $500,000 in super, and I pull $50,000 out and give it to my kids. So where it's deemed a transfer of an asset, it's then caught under the gifting rules. Where you were trying to sort of organise, well, what am I going to do? It then brings into account how old are we as a couple, who's eligible for age pension, because you may not be eligible at the same time. So if it was me and I was getting to age pension first and I was 67 and my wife was 60, I wouldn't be having any of my super in my name. I would have given it to my spouse. Gifting rules don't apply to a spouse. And I would have my wife maintain an accumulation super fund. And people look at me and go, well, why wouldn't she start a pension? If she starts a pension, the asset value of her pension is included in the asset test for the two of you as a couple. If your wife is 60 and you're 67 and she has $1 million, she has $2 million in a super fund that is in accumulation phase, i.e. we have not started a pension, the value of that asset is exempt in the eyes of Centrelink for your asset test assessment. All right, so just think about that one as you're driving home. If it's not in pension, it's not included in the asset test. So you want to be preparing things because we have non-concessional limits, which make it hard for you to get a lot of money out of your name and into your spouse's name. So you need to be thinking about this well before you stroll in at 67 and one day and say, hey, give me some age pension, please. Be strategic. Think about who's going to own the assets. Think about where it's going to be. The asset value that you do have is then deemed. So if you've got $500,000 in super and you start a pension, the pension you take is not included under the asset test. So I find this one, there's a little bit of confusion out there as well. I've got $500,000 in my pension account and it counts under the asset test. Centrelink will deem or assume a rate of earnings on that 500 and they have a sliding scale. Certain percentage to this amount, certain percentage to this amount. So first 64,000, 0.75, 2.75% over that. And they assume it's earned 15 grand. You might be taking out 30,000. It's the 15,000 of assumed earnings or deemed earnings that gets added to your income test. So
then that becomes an issue.
Well, they are correct. But again, it might be that you're well under the asset test, you're well under the income test, but we want to know whose name's it in? What structure am I running? Is it included? Can I make it not included without giving it away? So people need to remember that it's not the pension that comes out, the value of the income, it's the deemed amount of income on the asset that you have. You're not penalised by having to meet your living costs, but they assume that we'll earn a certain amount of money and they're the deeming rates that are applied. So think about whose name it's in. Think about where you're going to put it. If you're going to get rid of stuff, get rid of it early. Okay, so if you want to get your asset value down because you've absolutely killed it, but you're one of these people that goes, I've paid tax my whole life and I deserve it. If that's how you want to roll, that's fine. But get it out of your name well before you walk into Centrelink, preferably 5 years before that event occurs. So you want to be doing this at 60, 61, 62, because 5 years from there, you've got to declare what you've given away under the gifting rules. So it pays to be a little bit strategic here and think about where you are well before you get there.
That point does play into our listener's question a little bit, doesn't it? If he wants to give assets to his children, he's got to consider those implications as well.
Well, so the question at the start was, can I give it away? Yes, you can. Now, the gifting rules only apply when you are dealing with Centrelink.
Yes.
There is nothing in the legislation, there is no penalty to have $1 million super fund, a $500,000 super fund, a $200,000 super fund, take 10% out and give it to your kids.
That's fine.
You can do that, no problems. There's no penalty, there's no tax, there's no implications. Giving away money is not a taxable event. You might pay tax on selling something to give it away, like you would in transition, so you'd pay tax inside the super fund.
Yeah.
But the gifting rules only apply when we're talking about the lens of Centrelink.
Indeed.
Not for anything else.
Luke Smith from Envision Financial is with me in the studio, and today we're asking the question, what is the Centrelink asset test and how does it work? 7 minutes to 5 now. Luke Smith from Envision Financial is with me in the studio today, and we're asking the question, what is the Centrelink asset test and how does it work? We've reached the point where we need to sort of start wrapping things up. What are the key things for people to remember?
So just keep in mind that the asset test and the income test are used at the same time. The test that gives you the least amount of benefit is the one that they use. The asset test is a collective of the two of you where you're both in pension phase. Accumulated superannuation for a spouse that is not of age pension age is exempt in the eyes of Centrelink. So be strategic and try and get as much money into the younger spouse's name for as long as possible, because you could have $2 million in super in his or her name in accumulation phase and she's 60, for example. Hubby might be 67 and entitled to a full age pension if there's no other assets. And it's a wonderful way to try and get out as much as you can for the time and tax that you've paid, because that's generally 90% of people's view. Remember that the paperwork for this is an absolute punish, all right? Go into it expecting you're going to run a marathon across broken glass. It is not a 100-metre sprint. And I find people become very disenfranchised. And I've had people in my office go, I'll just give up. It's too hard. It's not worth it. And that's not the point of it. If you've worked and you deserve it and you earn it, great, apply for it. But go into it knowing it's going to be a punish. And if it isn't, then that's just a lovely surprise. Remember that if you use the downsizing legislation, okay, here's one where people get caught, have a massive house that's exempt, downsize, throw money into super, you've now increased your assessable assets in the eyes of Centrelink. So you could have a massive house, be on full age pension, downsize, and lose your Centrelink entitlements or get a proportion of what you were getting before. So understand the implications of the downsizer rules and adding money to super. If you do need to keep your age pension because you're going to lose it, put more money in the downsizer house. Do some renovations, put on another wing, redo the garden, redo the bathroom, build a room for your shoes. Whatever you want to do, get some money into your primary residence because it's exempt under the asset test and that rule hasn't changed. If you're going to give away money, give away large blocks of money well before you're eligible for the age pension, because they look back and ask you, have you given anything away in the last 5 years under the gifting rules? And that's $10,000 a year or 30 over a rolling 5-year period. So be strategic there. Keep in mind the downsizer. Keep in mind that when you record things, it's generally the fire sale value of anything, not the market value of what you bought 15 years ago, okay? Because you can be far too honest there. And then understand that you're going to have to report a change in your situation every 6 months, because they'll ask you for your changing assets. They don't do this very well. It is very clunky, and they do it at Christmas when everyone's on holidays. So if you want to get in early and provide that information, be organised and be prepared. If you do get an income stream from your superannuation, then you're going to have a certificate that comes from your fund that you can provide to them in relation to the value of the income. But we'll touch on that in another show.
Fantastic. So, Luke, where can listeners get more information?
Yeah, office number is 62604749. We've got envisionfinancial.com.au on the internet. We've got the podcast, The Strategy Stacker, Luke Talks Money on iTunes and Spotify. And we've got the YouTube channel, Envision Financial Canberra, where we've got a backlog of all of our shows. So you can get that on the phone or the telly. And we've got an entire chapter in Smart Money Strategy, your ultimate guide to financial planning. Wonderful Christmas gift for the stocking fillers.
Yesterday was 5 weeks to Christmas Day.
Wow.
Yes, there we go. The countdown has begun. Luke, thanks very much for dropping by. We'll catch you next week.
See you next week.
Luke Smith from Envision Financial back in the studio here at Radio 2CC once again at the same time next Friday afternoon.